Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are diving into the incredible story of Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who rose from poverty to become one of the most feared rulers in history. This is not just a story about war. It is a story about ambition, power, victory, and ultimate defeat. You will see how one man changed Europe forever, how he built an empire, and how his hunger for power led to his downfall. In this story, you'll learn how Napoleon became a legendary military genius, how he crowned himself emperor, how he conquered nations across Europe, and how one fatal mistake destroyed everything he built. But most importantly, you will learn how power can change a person, and how even the strongest rulers can fall. So sit back, put on your headphones, and enter the world of war, empire, and destiny. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte.
On the island of Corsica, a boy was born into a poor family. His name was Napoleon. No one knew that this small child would one day change the fate of millions. Napoleon was different from other children. Quiet, angry, extremely intelligent. At school, many students mocked him because he was poor and spoke French badly. But Napoleon learned one important lesson very early. If you are not strong, people will crush you. From that moment, he became obsessed with one thing: power. Napoleon entered military school. There, he quickly proved he was smarter than most soldiers. He studied battle maps late at night while others slept. While everyone rested, Napoleon planned future wars. At the same time, France was falling into chaos. The king was overthrown. Blood filled the streets. This was the time of the famous French Revolution. While many people hid in fear, Napoleon saw opportunity. He began winning battle after battle. Soon, people started calling him the unbeatable general. Napoleon was still very young when he was given command of an army. His soldiers were starving. Their clothes were torn. Napoleon stood before them and said, "You are poor, but I will make you rich." The soldiers believed him. Then something incredible happened. With a small army, Napoleon defeated much larger nations. He moved quickly. His enemies never understood what was happening until it was too late. Napoleon's style of warfare changed the world forever. Years passed. Napoleon was no longer just a general. The people of France saw him as a hero. In 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of France. The most shocking part? No king crowned him. No pope crowned him. He placed the crown on his own head. It was a message to the entire world. I bow to no one. Napoleon began fighting wars across Europe. Austria, Prussia, Russia. Many nations tried to stop him. But Napoleon's army was powerful. He inspired his soldiers like no other leader. He often entered the battlefield himself. When soldiers saw Napoleon fighting beside them, they fought harder. One of his greatest victories was the Battle of Austerlitz. After this battle, many people believed Napoleon cannot be defeated. But power changes people, and Napoleon slowly became too confident. In 1812, he decided to invade Russia. It became the greatest mistake of his life. More than 600,000 soldiers marched into Russia. But the Russians fought differently. They retreated and burned everything behind them. Napoleon's army had no food.
Then, winter arrived. The cold was merciless. Soldiers froze to death. Hunger, disease, and snow destroyed the once unstoppable army. Only a small number of soldiers returned alive. Napoleon's enemies saw their chance. The nations of Europe united against him. This time, Napoleon was defeated. He was exiled to an island. But the story was not over yet. One day, Napoleon escaped and returned to France. People were shocked. Even the soldiers sent to arrest him joined his side instead. Napoleon took power again. It became one of the most dramatic comebacks in history. But it would not last long. The Battle of Waterloo. This was Napoleon's final battle, and this time, he lost completely. He was exiled again, far away to a lonely island. The man who once terrified Europe now sat alone in a small room. In 1821, Napoleon died, but his name never disappeared from history. Some people call him a hero. Others call him a ruthless conqueror. But one thing is certain, Napoleon changed the world forever. And so, the story of Napoleon Bonaparte came to an end. A man who once ruled Europe, a man feared by kings and nations, eventually lost everything. But even today, centuries later, the world still remembers his name. Because Napoleon's story teaches us something powerful. Ambition can build empires. Power can change people. And one mistake can destroy even the strongest ruler. History is filled with stories like this. Stories of war, betrayal, power, survival, and destiny. And in the next videos, we will explore even more unbelievable true stories from history. Stories that can teach us lessons about life, leadership, human nature, and the rise and fall of great civilizations. So if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us in the comments which historical figure or event you want to see next. Your support helps this channel grow and allows us to create even more cinematic history stories for you. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the greatest battles in history were not fought only with swords, but inside the human mind. See you in the next story.